I ain't got many. You got more years than I do. I got to get to the place where I go. I'm ready.
We need a longer.
You made that, John?
No, it was a template I got.
That's better than those AV charts you had to roll down the hallway.
Oh, yeah.
And VHS tapes that were always clear.
Did you want to drive, D, or do you want me to drive?
Oh, you go ahead and.
I can drive.
Yeah, I don't have a license. Well, because it's already going to. Yeah.
You want to close the door?
Yeah.
All right.
I got it.
That's the way to serve right there, man. That's good.
So Philip,
Yes. Lynn. Correct?
so you're saying I could send an email and ping to this number?
Yes.
he still can't fathom.
Is it okay if I try that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I'm kind of.
It's fascinating, huh? All righty. Here we are.
Here we are.
I just want to welcome you and
Come on in.
Bev.
Sorry,
I have this.
had to do the communion cups.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Want to welcome you to this apologetics class. First I will ask John to introduce himself. I will introduce myself.
Sure. So, if you haven't met me, my name's John Gardner. I am deeply passionate about apologetics. It's actually kind of funny that Corey talked about what he did this morning because the whole time I was like, that's apologetics for me. That's why I'm here. I'm here to share my passion with you and hopefully inspire the same for you.
Thank you. Well, I'm D Walker. I wouldn't say I'm passionate about apologetics, but my passion is to develop others, and I use different means of doing that. My family and I are originally from Liberia in West Africa. We've been in the US for over 20 years, in Colorado Springs, close to 16 years, at Sunnyside, about 15 years. And we just love connecting with people and helping people come closer to the Lord. So I've been on a lot of mission trips around the world. And it's a joy. I mean, I've not taught a class at Sunnyside for like 5 years because I was back in Liberia, giving back to my people. So I'm back in the States, and we are blessed, Bindo and I. Tomorrow we would be 30 years in marriage.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Yes, thank you. Bindo and I celebrate 30 years in marriage tomorrow. Wow. Unbelievable. How did she put up with me? Yeah. Anyway, so that says we're looking forward to getting to know you. If you don't mind you introducing yourselves, we start with.
My name is Philip. It can be easily remembered because I'm always looking to fill up my cup. So I got saved when I was in 7th grade, and it was one of the supernatural type of experiences where I felt a drop hit the crown of my head, and it just kind of flooded my entire body. I fell away from Christ for a little while after I had joined the Army, and then getting out of the Army, I was very lost. And life was very hard, and I didn't know which way to go, and I had always kept feeling that tug back towards church, back towards God, but never quite devoting myself fully to it. So I'd get in, and then I'd get back out, and then I'd get back in, and then I'd get back out. But now I'm in, and I've jumped in feet first. So
Awesome. If you feel comfortable, would you mind sharing how familiar you are with apologetics? Do you have any experience with apologetics? And that goes for everybody, just so we can get an idea.
As far as apologetics goes, I think one of my favorite books for apologetics is the Book of Job. There's a lot of there's a lot of poetic science in that, and I just think in that and in the way that it's worded and what it translates to and what it's interpreted to, It reveals the glory of God in a more, I hesitate to use the word worldly, but in a more scientific way. So wherever science can support, the existence of God, I consider that to be apologetics.
Right on, right on.
Or where it should be the other way around. God has made the science, and the science
No,
supports.
Totally.
But yeah, so I would say, I would be at the advanced beginner level.
I love that.
Cool.
I love that.
Well, I guess I'm next. We're going this way, right?
Sure.
Or we can zigzag.
My name is Joel Cowan, and I've been married to my wife for 58 years.
Hey,
Wow.
We were in love when we were in high school, and we just stayed that way.
Such a lucky man.
Yeah, it's a lucky thing. It takes commitment to have that
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
And that's what that's all about. Love is a choice. That's what we found out, and we were able to grow that way. I have 2 children. Our family was very important, and we have troubles in our family, as every family does.
Which family doesn't?
Yeah. But apologetics is a very interesting thing to me. I've always viewed apologetics to be like a confrontational way to share Jesus, right, defending the faith, because the world, I guess, doesn't know Jesus, so you're going to have that kind of attitude towards those that do, and it takes apologetics. My best friend in high school, and ended up being a very important person in apologetics, travels around from
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead.
from city to city, talking to churches about apologetics. And we got back together again like 10 years ago, and we hadn't seen each other for 30 years. And apologetics was his life. And we didn't really have a lot in common because my faith has always been my way to share Christ. So I'm interested in this class to see how it can help me share my faith.
Yeah.
That's
Cool.
That's where I'm at in this class.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that's my story.
Thank you.
my name is Michael. Me and my wife met at Sunnyside. I grew up in Colorado, up in Denver, moved back to Colorado Springs in '96, and I came immediately to Sunnyside, been a member since. The minister that was teaching at the Christian church up in Iowa that I lived at, I asked him for a recommendation in Colorado Springs since I'm moving here, and he said, why don't you go to Sunnyside, because one of the guys there that's the youth minister, Taz, he went to Christian college with and knows him. And I've been here ever since. Me and my current wife, final wife, we got married here in '99. So we have 5 kids, all daughters between us, and 7 grandbabies.
Wow.
Now, apologetics to me, I was born and baptized a Catholic. I was confirmed, everything, all the sacraments of the Catholic faith, 6 grades of Christian Catholicism, altar boy, member of the Knights of Columbus, and then we moved to the big city, and I became like a wandering, not an atheist, but agnostic. That's right.
Yes.
And I was a little bitter from the Catholic faith, and what it did to my family. I can tell you all about that later, but I went searching on my own, and I got born again and baptized at a Word church in Dallas, Texas, in about 1982, I think April 82. And but I didn't get baptized right away. I was still struggling with the submersion baptism. So when I moved to Iowa, I met a gal there, my ex-wife. Yeah, we got married and went to a Christian church there. I went to the Promise Keepers, even the ones held here, I traveled back to it.
Nice.
And as I was growing up in Denver as a kid from age 12 to whenever I left, my very best friend, his father and his whole family was Jehovah's Witness. So every time I went over to visit, they opened up the Bible, started quoting things for me, and just preached to me all the time. And us kids would try to run away. I know, and to me, apologetics, it's like you get to a point where you say, I have found the right way. I can relate to the Bible. I can bring up verses, defend my faith. And you're not apologizing. What you're doing, I think, is you're talking to people that don't believe the way you do. And it's kind of like, I'm sorry you believe that way, but let me tell you why I don't. And so it's apologetic, but you're doing it kindly. And so Mormons, they knock on my door, I would open them up, and I would talk to every single one of them.
You mean you open them up, you slice them up? No, okay, all right. I was just trying to find that.
After a chalk, I found have a body, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and threw weights around there, so and I would talk to them, and they would tell me something, and I knew it wasn't right, and I said, oh, that's kind of interesting, but did you know this? And the last thing I told the last Mormon that came to my house, I said, you know what? I'm real concerned, and I'm praying for you, because you got a little boy here, your son that you brought with you, and he's going to learn about false prophecies, and I don't want him to learn wrong. Okay, so that's why I'm sharing. She covered his ears and left my property.
Okay.
That's my apologetic
Good.
so far.
Good. Okay.
All right.
All right.
I'm Joey. My wife will tell you about her a little bit. I've been in Colorado for as much of my life as it's basically worth to say my whole life. My introduction to apologetics was from a friend of mine in Illinois who was a deeply seeking agnostic. He hipped me to a podcast by a big apologist in the scene, Justin Brierley. Unbelievable podcast, and I really like that when I got around to listening to it. Substantiating my faith has been something that's of great interest to me, and the philosophy behind that as well. And it has continued with my friendship with John. We're next door neighbors, and we often talk about the faith and the inner workings therein. So I'm very interested in it.
Yeah, we had a pretty deep conversation just yesterday.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm Katie, and in terms of apologetics, I've never actually done any studying or research into apologetics, but I am very passionate about certain topics, and those topics I'm very passionate about finding every argument against my stance and learning how to combat those arguments with as many facts and details as possible. So I have never done that with my faith, and I'm like, well, that's probably the most important thing, to be able to debate and have answers for the tough questions. So that's why I'm here.
Good.
I have a daughter, and she's almost 3.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she was in earlier?
Yes.
Oh yeah, she walked in, so
Sweetie.
we could show her that this is where we're gonna be. Then had to send her back to the nursery.
I'm Ray Hoff. I've got 2 kids and a wife. Found Christ, drifted away, and came back. Happy to be back, and want to share my faith with others. But I get tired of the confrontational situations, and I want to be able to come at it with a different force. I'm a hammer by nature, and I need to figure out a kinder, softer, loving way to show people Christ.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping that's what I get from you.
Yeah, definitely.
Some better ways.
Good.
I'm Lynn Allen, actually kind of a visitor here. I was the photographer for the One Voice a couple of months back, and then I met Pastor Eric, and he mentioned this class and suggested I attend.
Great, great.
Thank you.
Happy to have you.
I'm Kathy, and I grew up in Chicago, then went to college in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and stayed there for over 40 years. And my daughter and her husband and my grandson moved here. So when I retired from the university, I moved here. And then my son-in-law is the tech person here, Jason. And so he and Jill, his wife, my daughter, talked me into coming to Sunnyside. And so I've been here 2.5 years, I guess.
Cool.
And I volunteer in the office and in the nursery. So I've really been connected that way. I know nothing about apologetics, but I know that I need to be able to defend my faith better. And so that's why I'm
You're
here.
in the right place.
My name is Barbara Woodfork, and I've been hanging around Sunnyside since 1990. So I've been here a long time.
Yeah.
And my mom retired Army wife, so we've been around the block quite a few times, quite a few places, met quite a variety of people, variety of faiths, and that really challenges you when you're moving place to place. You find a lot of people that will, like you said, confrontational about your faith, or they have some false misconceptions about why you believe things that you do. I was born and raised as a Catholic, like Michael. Decided after high school that Catholicism wasn't enough for me. It didn't give me enough answers. It didn't connect me, it didn't give me a personal relationship with Christ, and that's what I needed. My mother is an ordained minister, so she's always been my spiritual back. And she would always tell me, you have to, whatever answer you're seeking for, you need to go to the Lord in prayer. And that's my big thing, is prayer. That's where I find myself. That's where I'm most successful, is in prayer. And so for apologetics, for me, I need to learn more about it. I can be kind of confrontational myself, and kind of stubborn in what I believe and what I'm trying to get across to people. So I need to be able to really, really be able to expound on my faith and withstand that, and be courageous enough to stand up for it.
Definitely.
What denomination was your mother, or is your mother?
My mother was, we were all raised as Catholics. My mother was not born a Catholic, but she was the first one. I think she had a big fight with the priest about a number of things. So she was the first one to leave the Catholic Church, and then slowly but surely with the rest of us. And she became an ordained minister in 2005. So.
But not a Catholic ordained.
No.
Okay, that's what the dots I was trying to connect.
No.
That's falling backwards, so
Probably not.
she's going forward.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Catholic, Pastor.
Bless you.
Well, my name's Beverly, and I've been coming to Sunnyside about 15 years. My late husband and I. I love Sunnyside, and I love Eric because Eric took my husband. He was raised Catholic, and when Eric took him under his wing, in fact, it was my husband who suggested coming to Sunnyside. Well, when he married me, that was the end of Catholicism anyway, but he was not a practicing Catholic, so he was willing. But Eric took him under his wing, and I praise God for that, because 4 years before he passed away, we were both baptized by immersion, and he had accepted the Lord, and I'm very grateful for that. We have 3 grown children. I have 6 grandchildren. 5 years old, 5, 15, 2 18s, a 22, a 23, and a 6-month-old great-granddaughter.
Wow.
Yeah. My oldest son is in the Air Force, like his dad was, except he's a colonel. And he is also a pastor with the Assemblies of God.
Is your son a
and-
chaplain?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no, he doesn't serve as a chaplain.
Oh, okay.
No, this is on the side.
I see.
Wow.
He got his certification, or whatever they call it,
Mhm.
so that he could perform the wedding ceremony for his son.
Wow, okay.
So, and that was wonderful.
Mm.
So apologetics, I know the definition. I have an idea about what it is, but I'm with other people. I want to learn how to especially talk to my other 2 adult children. They're believers, but they don't put God first. So I just want to be able to talk to them in a good way.
Thank you. Yep, sir.
My name is Colin. I have a wife. She's over in the women's class. I have a 2-year-old, and we moved here about a year ago and some, and been coming here now for, I don't even count the months, but 4 or 5, 6 months, I don't know. And I was excited whenever they, started kind of having these Sunday school timed type classes, and then I was actually next door. They had the door open, and the whole border was filled. Everybody was in there, and they had some mush pot seats in the middle, but I didn't want to sit in the middle. And so I came over here to see what's going on. And you guys had a chair for me. So.
You have to sit there.
Welcome, welcome.
Sorry for being late. I got to it's 10:45, and then I thought it was upstairs.
Oh.
So I'm like walking around. Where's that? My name is Randy. I've been going here for 3-4 months now. My wife Chantel, she's in the main service. We have 2 kids. They're here. Apologetics, I love with a passion. I grew up in the church, and I had no reason to disbelieve what I was being taught.
This church?
No. No, I grew up in
That's right, you said
I grew up on the West Coast. I'm a refugee.
I'm a refugee from the West.
And yeah, I grew up in the church, and like I said, I had no reason to disbelieve it, and I did believe it. I grew up telling all my friends about church during recess in elementary school and my teenage years, and all my friends, yeah, whatever. They're kids. But when some of my friends started getting older, they started being like majority of them were just like, yeah, it's church, whatever, still. But some of them, like my buddy Justin, he's like, well, what about this and that? Like the more difficult questions. I'm like, I don't have to get back to you on that.
That's a good answer.
So,
Yeah.
so then I started doing the deeper research, and I was like, like, why are we teaching this in church? Like, there's so much good stuff, right? Because you have your personal belief, right, which is good, and we have our personal testimonies, and not to downplay those, but if you're talking to someone who's not a believer or who adamantly disbelieves, then they're gonna look at you, and when you talk to them about your personal testimony and your walk with Christ, they're gonna go, that doesn't mean anything to me. There's the Muslims, the Buddhists, Hindus, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, you name it. They all have their personal testimonies. What makes you different? So that's where Apologetics comes in.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a good class for you guys that aren't familiar with it. It's going to be nice.
Awesome. I'm glad you're here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank each of you for just the insights. For those of you who don't know, I got my PhD from a theological school, but my PhD was in education. It's from Trinity International University in Deerfield, Illinois. And I've been a professor teacher for over 25 years. So the issue of apologetics. So the question is, what is apologetics? What is apologetics? Now, before you respond, I want you to know there are several ways you can approach apologetics. You got those, and Christians are not the only apologists. I want us to be clear about that. Almost every faith have their apologists because they want to stand or defend their faith. So you can look at this entire subject of apologetics philosophically, So we can be here for, by the way, this is an 8 weeks class. It's more at a higher level. And then we're hoping that after this 8 weeks, we'll continue the class, but on more specific topics, specific topics so that we can dive in deeper, So you can look at it philosophically or theologically, And for me, I do not separate theology from biblical studies because you can study the Bible without engaging theology, So here is the philosopher. And I got two guys who talk about, they are passionate about this. This is exciting. So here's our approach. John and I, we are tag teaming. We are facilitators. And what does a facilitator do?
Aids.
What?
Facilitates.
Aids in the process.
Yes, aids in the process.
Pushes the microphone around.
Thank you. So we are not here as the authorities of apologetics, and we know a lot, we've engaged a lot, we've taught it a lot, that we have some answers. But our approach is to engage in a conversation.
Cool.
So, and besides, our style is not a talking head.
Okay.
Because my personal philosophy of education or teaching is that no one comes to the classroom, not even the child, as a blank slate. Each of us has experiences. So the reason why we told you to introduce yourselves was so that we could glean by hearing some of your experiences. Some of you have already engaged apologetics without calling it apologetics. So what is apologetics?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So, in the Wednesday night study, that's we're doing another apologetics thing, but it's for parenting. And the author of the book, I'd never heard it this way, but it makes perfect sense. Is a lot of us are already apologetics, but in other subjects. So, like if you're trying to convince someone how you need to go see this movie or use this tax person, and they ask you why, and you're like, oh, because they have this amount of education and this, or it's this and that, all the different reasons for why you want to show them that, or they should do this or do that, right? That's a form of apologetics, right? It's a reason for what you believe, right? So, like you said, it's not just limited to our belief system. A lot of people do it, and other religions do it. So,
But,
We're passionate about.
yeah, exactly. But wait a minute. When you hear the word apologetics, as closely related to the English language, what comes to mind?
I'm sorry. Forgive me, I'm sorry.
But you know what? That is not apologetics. Because we should never, ever be sorry for our faith. So what is apologetics? So somebody please read 1 Peter 3:15.
But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect.
Thank you. We'll look at the issue of how you should do it. So apologetics is a defense, giving an answer, giving an answer, in other words, giving a defense for your faith. As you gave your stories, and you got a lot of folks coming to you knocking on your doors, so you have reasons to tell them.
Yeah, I'm the only one on the block that let him in. That's why.
Can you present argumentation without being argumentative?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Yep. I'll give you one example if you want.
Just hold that thought.
Okay.
Yeah, just hold that. And a lot of folks think that apologists are people who are being argumentative. No, they're not. You know, you guys talked about that. You know, so the word apologetics come from not from the English word apology, but from the Greek word apologia, which means a defense. So this class, what is the name of this class?
Apologetics.
No, yes, that's the name, but I mean, we have branded ourselves.
Yeah.
So what is our brand?
Defenders.
We are the defenders. Defenders. Yes. Not D Walker.
Yeah.
No. The defenders. So from now on, whenever I see you, I call you a defender. You know we are referring to you as a defender of the faith. I mean, I've been in Christendom for over 30 years. And I'm telling you, growing up in Africa, there's a lot that has happened. You know, there's a lot, confrontations. So we use the word here, I heard a couple of us saying confrontations. And when I was in high school, I was the confronter. Because within my setting, I was the kind of guy who was always arguing, you know. I mean, professors, when teachers come to the classroom, they said, Dennis Walker, that's my name. My name is Dennis. Why you call me D? Shut up. Don't you say a word in this class. I said, why? Well, I took that from high school to Bible college. I went to Bible college. And most of my professors were from the West, missionaries from America. And they came to us saying, you know, I mean, with that belief system that some of them, that they were superior and they knew more than we did. That is true, you know, in their subject area. But when folks started making comments about things that we know, for example, all Africans are, you know, in Africa this, oh, no, that doesn't go down well with me. Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm from Liberia, a very small country of 5 million people in West Africa. We have 16 tribes. My wife is from a different tribe. In fact, intermarriages were not allowed between tribes, you know. So when she and I got married, we didn't understand each other, you know. Her parents and my parents, we had completely different traditions. Anyway, so I always stood the test. I always was the one who was saying, no, I want to know more. It was because I was very inquisitive. And there's nothing wrong with being inquisitive. So this class, for those of you who already know apologetics, it is just to reaffirm your positions. For those of you who are trying to find out, it is to open the door to apologetics. So, wow. So, this is our textbook, our primary textbook. We'll send it to you via email. We have a supplementary text, you know, and then there's one that I have personally used as a devotional. Imagine using a book, apologetics book, as a devotional, 5 minutes every day.
I need that book.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 5-minute apologist. I use that as my devotional.
I'm gonna go broke buying books.
Yeah. So, if you want to,
Hand your finances over God, you'll be all right.
this class is going to be tailored for 8 weeks. There are 10 chapters, but we've condensed them to 8 weeks according to this book. So if you want to read ahead, we will send you stuff through the email and stuff. Or you want to buy it from Amazon, how much does it cost? $300? Not more than $20. It would be nice for you to have on your bookshelf. Now,
Is it also available online?
yes, yes. Dr. Craig could become a philosopher now. In this book, he decided to become a little bit more biblical and theological. He has resources on his website that are highly philosophical. So if you are the philosopher in this class, you want to dive deeper into philosophy, find his website. I think we can even send the link. Yeah. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I would say I highly recommend buying the book On Guard. The reason when Dee and I started talking about this class that we're doing this book is, in my opinion, this is the de facto primer for apologetics. This is the best gateway into apologetics because it's so comprehensive. It covers scientific arguments, it covers philosophical arguments, it covers moral arguments, it covers biblical arguments, historical arguments. It's like the perfect entrance into apologetics. While the material is based on the book, I would say if you don't have a desire to buy or read the book, that's totally fine, because the way that I've formatted these presentations is to follow the book as faithfully as possible. So if you never buy the book, you'll still get what's in here through these classes. So I highly recommend buying it and reading it because it's a wonderful book, but you don't feel like you have to because.
But I want to. So what's the name of the middle book? I got On Guard and I got 5 Minute Apologetics.
Oh, okay. This one is Faith and Reason.
Faith and Reason.
You can please hold it. Yeah.
Do you think those would be available at Mardell's?
I would not be surprised.
Sure
I think
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
I'm sure that this will be there. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. This guy doesn't want to go online. He wants to go to Mandela and get it right away.
I'm the one that likes the physical.
I just go to Barnes and Noble.
Yeah. Well, let's continue. So again, it's an 8 weeks class, 1 hour every Sunday. There are times when we might go 10 minutes over. This is just to whet your appetite, so that when the following class comes, you would have a very good foundation. This book is solid. Thank you for recommending it to me. I mean, there were others that I have on my shelf. I've never come to this. But 1 Peter 3:15 says that we should have an attitude when presenting answers, when defending our faith. And that's the kind of attitude that John and I believe all of you have, And that is, you should do it with what? Gentleness and respect. I work at a homeless, with an organization that strives to exit young people, youth in the Pikes Peak region from homelessness. And I've been there for 5 months. They're doing an exceptional job. I met my very first self-proclaimed atheist. We usually receive donations from folks. So it is so hard for me not to let people know I'm a Christian, And one of the ways I do that, when the woman said, "So thank God that you brought this," and the woman said, "Thank who?" I said, "God." And she said, "I don't believe in God." I almost wanted to say, "That's your business." I don't care if you don't believe in God. But you know what? When she said that, there is an antenna within D. Walker that just... So I start scanning her, My first response when she said that, 1, as a child of God, 2, as an African, 3, from the Kru tribe, we are known to be warriors. I wanted to attack her right away. But the Bible says we should do it with what? Gentleness and respect. So we just want to lay this premise. No matter how intense or how invigorated you feel about apologetics or defending your faith, please remember you are a witness to the Lord Jesus Christ.
Ambassador.
You are an ambassador. I like that word, ambassador. In fact, I came from the Baptist background where we have the royal ambassadors. We teach young children, young boys and girls on how to be ambassadors of Jesus Christ. You hardly find an ambassador who's rude, because they are representing, mostly. I mean, you found some guys that I knew when I was in East Africa doing my master's. They were very warrior-like. One of them became an ambassador. He had to he had to contain his warrior likeness because he didn't agree with all of the stuff that some of the other nations were saying. But now he was not representing himself or his tribe, he was representing the nation. So we are representing Jesus Christ. So we should be very cautious on how we do that. Okay. Let me ask one question. But before we go into that, you have these right in front of you. Before we go further, I want you to do one thing. Just think, what is one thing that you believe within you as you were thinking about this class? What is one thing, write it out, that you want to get from this class, you want to learn from this class? What is one thing that you want to learn from this class? Is there a subject, is there an issue that you've been grappling with? And as we're talking about defending the faith, what is that one thing that you want to really gather from this class? When you're done, just push it forward and we'll collect that later.
Can I have a new card? I took notes on this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we have much.
You're getting these cards back?
Huh?
Yeah.
I need a new card.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do they call the rules, regulations that they follow in all these religions their dogma? Is that what it is? Every church?
Yeah, yes. It's a dogma, yeah.
Worldview.
Right.
Well,
I understand what the other side believes. This way I can apologize for it or whatever, do the apologetics. So I don't go in it blindly. So that they know that I understand. I can talk to a Catholic all day. I know everything about the faith.
Yeah.
I want to get that way about the other one.
Well, write it down. Write it down. Yes.
Maybe I missed it, but John, did you do an introduction?
I did, yeah.
Did you? Okay.
Yes. Go ahead and do it again.
Well, I just, sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, no, I didn't go into my background, but I grew up in the church. I'm one of the, I would consider myself one of the 99. I don't really have one of those, left the faith or anything like that. However, I would say that apologetics is
99 cheap.
specifically, apologetics has specifically played a crucial role in my faith because it's revolutionized my worldview. I discovered apologetics in the latter part of 2018. So I've only been studying it for about 5 years, but when I got into it, I realized that my faith was kind of ancillary. I kept it on the side. So I was putting other things first. I was looking at the world through other perspectives. I would approach questions, I would approach issues through the eyes of my dad was in the military, and so that had a large influence on me. I looked at things through political eyes. I looked through things, through American eyes. How do I see this as a man? How do I see this as a Republican? How do I see this as, Christian wasn't number one. It was just kind of a side thing. And when I got into apologetics and I started reading about this, and it began to shape my worldview, I realized that my faith needs to be at the center of everything. I need to approach every question from through the eyes of Christ. So when I was considering where I would work, where I would live, who I would marry, I began to realize that this needs to be through the eyes of God, not through the eyes of my background, my cultural milieu, if you will. And so apologetics has played a huge part in my testimony because it's turned my world upside down. It's really changed the way I look at everything.
Something specific in 2018?
I met a guy named Dennis who was teaching an apologetics class. It's not this Dennis.
Okay.
I joined an apologetics class and I didn't know what it was, and I was just like, this is the best stuff I've ever heard.
Good. Thank you, John.
By the way, has everybody had a chance to sign in? I see we have 12 people, but we only have 11 names on here.
Is the Holy Ghost?
Randy?
Mine's not in there.
I didn't.
Okay, you see, the reason why we need apologetics is because apologetics gives you the confidence, confidence to talk about your faith without shouting at the other person, yelling at the other person, abusing the other person, and trying to be defensive. Now, let me ask a question just for conversation here. Have you witnessed, you have had so many folks coming to you, but have you witnessed folks trying to talk about Christ to others without respect, without gentleness? Have you, can you share, and how did that make you feel?
Ashamed.
You know, the receiving end or the giving end?
I mean, you were trying to defend your faith, but you did it without these two things we're talking about: respect, gentleness, and respect.
It does the opposite. It turns people away.
When I was in high school, I had a very self-righteous mindset about my faith, and I did that quite often, where I would judge people, and it wasn't until years later that I realized how much damage that I had caused.
Okay.
And although my intentions were good, the manifestation of those intentions brought about the exact opposite of what I wanted to happen.
Okay, good.
I mean, I can remember like it was yesterday, I was working on the railroad going through college, and my foreman back on a caboose, we were on a 8-hour shift, and he talked about his faith and this and that, and I couldn't get out of it, and I said, I will never let myself be subjected to that again. I just was captured in what my experience is. The most underutilized, underappreciated tool of evangelism is listening.
Because you see, when someone makes fun of Christianity, something that you hold on to, something that controls your belief system, there's something that happens within you. You want to react, and for us, we are not a reactionary faith people. We are folks who take action, proactive, because we know what we believe. Now, let me move a little further, because we could have a lot of conversation around this. We want to share 3 reasons with you why we need apologetics. But before we share those with you, can you think of any reason why we need apologetics?
You're going to run into somebody who's smarter and better and bigger and badder, and you're going to have to do your homework, or you're going to be way in deep water.
Yeah.
Because of 1 Peter 3:15. We're commanded to answer questions.
Matthew 28, Great Commission.
Yeah.
Make disciples.
Here's one of the things.
We can't do it. It's the Holy Spirit.
No, I mean, we are coming to that. I mean, see, when we're talking about more, it's more like on the philosophical level. And so we got to support all of these with the biblical, because we don't just want this to be hanging just on the philosophical level. So the conversations we're having right now, in fact, some of the reasons we'll give to you, they seem so philosophical or social or moral, but you and I cannot live without the guidebook. Okay? But you're right. Now that you've said, let me just say it's true. We cannot. There is no way we can defend the faith without the power of the Holy Spirit. Yeah, you were saying something, Sal.
All this stuff just makes me think about stuff, and one of which is my dad used to say, you know this much, the smartest guy knows this much, the angels know this much, the devil knows this much. How much are you going to be able to stand against somebody who knows this much? And then you got things where people come along and they say the earth is 5 trillion years old, and you go, it either is or it isn't. The Bible says it is or it isn't, But the reality is if I can tell you how many rings were in there, and I can give you a convincing argument enough that God didn't put those rings in there, He just put the genesis of those rings in there, it's going to be hard for me to sit back and even be able to wrestle with the idea that I have any depth or grasp of how to handle that. And I think C.S. Lewis said, how did these unlearned men, it's like education is... Christianity is an education of its own. And I think that's the same thing with apologetics.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that if you don't practice apologetics, then you're not going to be any good at it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah.
I have a 12-year-old grandson, and he came home from school, and I had picked him up, and he asked me about evolution versus creation. I was like,
Okay.
whoa, you know. And that's one of the things. He's going to come home with those kinds of questions, and I need to be able to answer his questions.
Good. Good.
So is that a religion, basically?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's
You
a
know.
thing for sure.
It can be.
Yes. Yes. So this brings us to the conversation on three. There are a lot of reasons why we should study apologetics, but one of them is apologetics helps in shaping culture. When we take a defense for, so shaping culture is one of the reasons. Hey, I'm not a student of church history, but I've done a lot of church history. And looking at the historical context of church history, I'm so afraid, as a naturalized American, I'm so afraid that the path of the church right now is being shaped so much by not just politics, but our social. Do you agree?
Well, yeah, but I think it's been that way since the Dark Ages.
Well, yeah, the Dark Ages came, and then remember we had the Renaissance, and then we had the church movement, the Protestant church movement, and the church in Europe was thriving, right? They built these big cathedrals that were filled with people, because folks were experiencing God. And then now I was in Prague just before the COVID, and I was shocked. I went to some huge churches. Folks prefer now to have church. The missionaries are going to visit. They were having church in their backyard, because you go to the cathedrals, no one will go. If we are not careful, that would happen in the United States, where the churches will become empty, because our generation might fizzle out, so to speak, and then the next generation that comes doesn't even know how to stand for Christianity. That's why I was talking to Pastor Eric, and I said we need to teach apologetics even from the elementary school. We need to teach it, and there are curriculum. We've got a lot of curricula for teaching apologetics at that level, and it's the church's responsibility to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think another answer to why we need apologetics, you kind of mentioned it. Perfect example of it. Our culture nowadays, they believe, oh, well, God's not real, it's evolution. And science is now the judges, they're the rulers that, this is real and that's real, and they make religion.
They determine the reality that we live in.
Yeah. Which, and it's not the case. They're using a different rule stick, and they're putting God in a box. So that's another reason.
Yeah.
Did Colin mention a Wednesday parenting? Is that you?
It's me.
Oh, it's you, okay.
So, we could talk a lot about how, our culture is being shaped. And if we do not engage in apologetics, the church in the United States will be maybe not obliterated, but come to a point where, because I went to a church in this Colorado Springs because of the work that I do. And I'm saying this, I'm shaking. My wife and I went. To see someone who was created as a male now says they are female. I have all the names for this stuff, but and for our church, we embrace everybody, right? We don't care where you come from, what your sexual orientation is, but to say that we believe this is what God wants you to be. We went to a church here, and that's all they espouse. In fact, they said, anyway, we'll get to some of those social stuff. We'll get there. Yeah.
Jesus Christ died on that cross and shed his blood for every single man, woman, and child on the earth at the time. Okay? Everybody's been covered by the blood.
The ones to be.
Now, You can decide to accept him and follow, or you cannot accept him. So you got free will to do that. But Jesus planted the mustard seed, the really small seed, they say, plant that, and then the Holy Ghost will water it. So you can't do that being mean, but you can plant the seed. Not every single person that Jesus Christ spoke to on his journey to the cross followed him.
Yeah, yeah.
But he planted a seed. Now, did they change after he died? We don't know. But you don't beat somebody over the head with a book. Just plant the seed, let him grow it. You have to say a few choice
Well, you
words
see,
to
yeah.
gather their attention.
Yeah. So you just, well, all what you said, you just border around what he said about all of these stuff we're doing. You know, we're being commissioned to do, but it is the Spirit of God.
Grow the kingdom of God.
So we study apologetics because what is happening now, to help us to shape culture. The other reason why we study apologetics is because we see how secularism took over Europe, and I've mentioned that, you know. So shape culture was secularism, how secularism is taking over our country, you know, it's taking over our country. And we could go into a lot of conversations with that. But then the other stuff is relativism, you know. There's no absolute truth. You know, there's no absolute truth. You know, and we can give a lot of examples about, you know, John, please talk a little bit about relativism, then we'll close. You know, some examples.
Well, we were having this conversation just yesterday. Before I got into apologetics, I used to have these really deep conversations with a buddy of mine in the office. We were literally just 2 cubicles away from each other, but we would spend the whole day just furiously typing instant messages to each other. And I hit a brick wall when he was like, well, maybe that's true for you, but that's not true for me. And at the time, I was completely unprepared for that. I was just like, well, shoot, I don't know what to say to that. But that's exactly what relativism is. It's like, well, there is no truth. It's just whatever, you know, true, whatever you want to be true is true.
Yeah. So
that's nonsense.
No, exactly. So anyway, sorry, I misspoke. So in shaping culture, we have to understand secularism. We have to understand relativism. You know that, you know, for us who believe that the Bible is God's truth. You know, and then the other thing is, why should we study apologetics? So the first reason is to shape culture, and the second is to strengthen believers. Is to strengthen believers. Yeah.
I think the best apologetic is your life story.
Sure.
If you can hit on an experience that person suffered, you'll be able to open up the door and relate better.
So when you are strengthened, we say in this church, we are people called to Christ to those who not yet, right? So when you are strengthened through apologetics, now your position, the third reason, is to win unbelievers. You know? And who are unbelievers? People who say they are atheists, folks who are from other religions, you know, and stuff like that. You know, so I'll keep these 3 reasons. 1, to shape culture. 2, to strengthen believers. And 3, to win unbelievers. Questions, comments? As we shut down for today?
I'm getting the idea, and I think I'm understanding. Apologetics is necessary to witness to people that have intellectually turned away from God and spiritually. There are those that have been hurt in life and are angry with God. They don't have really a problem with understanding who God is. They just lost the real identity of God.
Well, that's one, because yeah.
And it doesn't take apologetics to witness to this person. It takes an empathy for what they're going through. And so a lot of times our witness to others isn't intellectual.
No.
And I don't know whether apologetics is intellectual or not. That's one of the reasons I'm here, to try to discover that.
I think apologetics crosses the bridge between intellectualism and spiritualism. It brings them. It brings them together.
Brings them together.
Yes.
Yeah, it can be.
You,
It needs to be.
let me, yeah, I mean, thank you
I
very
think
much.
the situation dictates.
Yeah, it is.
Depending on
Situation
who
certainly
you're with
dictates.
At the moment, dictates how much it's intellectual and how much it's emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're talking about somebody who needs empathy and an ear
Yeah, in other words,
and understanding.
all witness requires an emotional thing. Whether, do you need to be a friend to somebody before you can witness to them?
Right. Right.
I mean, you don't know.
Ideally, you would be, but in not all situations are that way.
Yeah.
We meet people we've met first and have not yet become friends, but yet we're having a discussion about God. I mean, I've been there at work.
Yeah.
I've been there on the bus.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been there in situations that we didn't have the opportunity to become friends yet.
Yeah.
And yet, believe it or not, we're already having a discussion about God.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I think there's a phrase I may mangle here, people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
I think that's an interesting.
I think I may have mangled that.
No, that's
No,
exactly
you
right.
said that real well.
I'm going to throw something out here.
Book, actually.
Yes, I'm going to throw something out here as we close for today. Think about this. You know, I've had a problem. I don't know what my pastors will say. I'm going to say something here. I don't know if they hold that belief system. I think of creation, right?
Mm-hmm.
When God created humans, He breathed into man's life, right? And I see that as something spiritual, right? I believe that human beings, I don't like that dichotomy, you know, that we are physical and spiritual. I think human beings, we are spiritual beings, you know. Our decisions, you know, we are spiritual beings who have emotions, you know, we identify ourselves in the physical and stuff like that. But think about all that is going through your head. This lady that met me at the place, I work at the place, that says she doesn't believe in God, you know, and was attacking the church. When I further, with gentleness and respect, when I further probe, you could tell that she has a belief system of some spirituality. Now, I feel very strongly, and I'm going to stand as I close, that even though she says she's an atheist, she doesn't believe in God. As we continue the conversation, there was something that she kept saying that connects with a spiritual being. I felt very strongly that it's because she was created as a spiritual being. Even though she disregards that makes her to, one, either loathe the fact that there is a God, but yet holds on to a belief system that there's something spiritual. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. So for me, whenever I see myself, well, because I'm a Christian, and in fact, John and I, we have in the notes here, you know, our culture, usually the way we were culturated, you know, if I grew up in a Christian home, you know, I will have some belief system about Christ or the church and stuff. Someone who doesn't, because of the kind of culture, you go to the Islamic states, you know, they will talk about Allah and the Imam and stuff like that. But they all still believe that there is some spirituality. Folks, we're going to have a very good ride in this class. You know, I don't know if you're already feeling, I mean, John said when I sent him a text, are you ready? He said, I'm stoked, you know. And I think we're going to have I know we're going to have a very good time. We are all at different levels.
Absolutely.
And I would want to offer this. Again, that is extra. If you have a question that you think we cannot deal with in class, send an email to John and me. We might be able to lead you to a resource that you can read or a video that you can watch that would help you formulate, strengthen your position on this defense you want to take for the Christ that you and I believe in. Yes, sir.
We used to, I'm always in the past, but good time, we actually had a directory with your face in there and who you are and all that, and then they did away with that. Now they come up with this app, and I used to be able to search any member of the church. I can't do that now. So how do I know that it's something at Sunnyside Christian Church? Is it your first name, last name? Is it in the church application where you can find?
Is that at the bottom here, Defenders?
Yeah, we set up an email address
Defenders
specifically for
Apologetics
this class.
Oh, I know, but if you just wanted to get to know a fellow church person.
Everybody in this class should be in the group in the church.
If you signed into the group.
Yeah, you
As
need
of
to
this
sign
morning,
into
there were
that group.
4.
Yeah.
Sign into that group so that we
Yeah.
can know about you.
I think since we have the stuff now, we can register.
Yeah, I can also share, if everybody's comfortable with it, I can share all the emails with everybody.
Yeah.
who's on
Well,
the
they
email.
used to do that. If that's
No,
too
I
much of
mean,
a trouble,
To be frank
I
with you.
apologize.
No,
It's
no.
privacy issues, and that's
Yeah.
why.
Yes,
I
yes,
apologize.
yes.
With
yes.
respect.
You want it back.
All the churches I've been in, we did that.
What
But
do I know?
again, again, secularism, politics, and all of these things are infiltrated into the church. And because we are humans, we are now so concerned about privacy. Because before we had the directory, but the world is becoming so bad right now that you gotta protect your privacy, or else anyway,
I'm not worried about that. My God is greater.
Well, thank you so much. If you have any question, I'm around there for the next
I
5
think
minutes.
either believe in him or
Yeah.
you don't.
When you said, hey, if you had a question for such and such, email you, it would be that Defenders Apologetics.
Yes, yeah.
What do you do with all the people that work in that?
Well, thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you next week. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
So you,
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Michael, I'm probably when I was an agnostic,
Yeah.
that when I came here, I still questioned people. I said, why do
wait.
you believe that way? Because I joined.
Yeah.
You'll hear a lot from me. And I'm trying to get gentler.
That's good.
You don't write these down. You don't write these down. Oh, you do?
no, I want your questions.
No, I didn't know what you wanted.
Oh, yes. If you have a question, something you think you want us to address. Yeah.
And that's
Very good. Very good introduction.
Thank you.
You know, it's easier to capture.
Yes, thank you, good to see you.
Yes, Joey.